Good morning and welcome, iconic viewers, to Exploring Glorantha. I am JM, and with me, as always, is the Lancor, my scholar himself, Evan. Evan, good to see you, buddy.
Good morning.
Like literally, I just realized that I had misspelled Glorantha on our Exploring Glorantha intro. I don't know if that was just this month or if that has existed in perpetuity,
That,
but it has been fixed.
that's our Sandy Peterson tribute because the Gateway Bestiary has a misspelling on the cover um,
Oh,
that they missed, and they've just left it on because it was there. So
yeah, I was going to say I think I shared with you I had a really amazing. I jumped on a meeting for a different project I was working on, and this guy was talking back and forth, and we were talking, and it came out it was Sven who made the resistance table back in the day for the original RuneQuest because one of the players struggled with the math, and so he made the resistance table to make it easier for them to understand what they needed to roll when they were facing off against each other. And we just talked about Ballister's barracks, and I mean, it was amazing. Matt, good to see you this morning. I'm glad to see that you're on here. Today we are starting a new sub series that we're going to be looking through for the next several months. We said that we're going to basically, again, Exploring Glorantha is the show about saying, hey, yes, Glorantha is huge and it is deep, but you can be running a game in Glorantha immediately. And we're trying to help provide resources. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take the next several months and we're doing what we're calling a spatial tour of Dragon Pass. We're going to look at all of the different kingdoms and regions in Dragon Pass. So, we're looking at today, we're going to look at Sartar. We're going to look at Tarsh and Prax, um, the Grazelands, and Esrolia. I would really like to put, do one on Griffin Mountain and one on the Holy Country. But that may be further down the line because we're getting away from Dragon Pass, which is sort of the focus of at least the current edition of RuneQuest and Glorantha. And then we'll go into our temporal look where we say, hey, here's the first stage. Here are the high water marks of the first stage that you need to just have a frame of reference for as you are playing. And then here's the second age, and then here's the third age. So yeah, that today we are talking about Sartar, and my one little joke and addition to the outline is Sartar, the Kingdom of Heroes, but not the HeroQuest book. So Sartar is kind of the default homeland for most characters in RuneQuest and Glorantha, going back all the way kind of to the beginning. Sartar was the focus of the Dragon Pass adventures and campaigns. It is where the Sartarites come from. It's where um, Argrath eventually becomes, the king of Dragon Pass. It is the main Orlanthi community and Orlanthi kingdom in the region, and as such has become the main focus of the war between the Orlanthi and the Lunar peoples. So, um, as of the time we start in the current timeline, Clear Starbrow is in like over Sartar. Is that correct? Like the
yes,
dominoes have not yet all fallen.
right, right. So with the starter box, for example, the solo quest you played through the Battle of Dangerford,
Mm-hmm.
which in which Kalir Starbrow um, uh, repulses the forces of the Lunar Empire that seek to reinvade after the Dragon Rise. We're sort of getting ahead of ourselves in the story, but but the solo quest is available for free online, and
Yes.
I highly recommend
We'll
it.
put a
In
link
any
in the show
case,
notes.
in any case, after that, successful battle, really won in many ways through force of will by Kalir, She does ascend to becoming the prince of Sartar, um, and um, and so she is the first post liberation leader in 1625. For those of you who like to track the dates, and there are a lot of jokes about people sitting down to RuneQuest games and saying, "So what year is it?" Um, but uh, but it's fair because the meta plot is very interesting, and it is tracked by year, um, and people like to know what the baseline is, and that is tied to the timeline. And then from there, you can depart, and change the timeline and rearrange or ignore the timeline. And again, your Glorantha will vary, but where we sit with the starter box and the new core rule book, uh the suggested starting date is 1625. That's where the character generation sort of drops your starting character off, and Collier has cemented her control over the kingdom, but there is danger all around.
Yes.
And so we hope to talk about uh, uh, some of the key issues. There is enough to fill a book, and there's a book coming,
There
but
is.
it's
There have
not
been
here
actually
yet.
there have been multiple books on
Yes.
Sartar, right? Sartar Kingdom of Heroes, the Sartar Companion, going back to older editions of RuneQuest. Sartar probably has the most depth of exploration of almost any region in Glorantha. So let's start by taking a step back and where we're going to be talking a lot about Dragon Pass. So Evan, I could talk about Dragon Pass. I am right. It is this crossroads of several main regions. Uh, Ella's, I think we could affectionately call them right. As I was reading through the book of the history of the Hjortling peoples, I think is the one I was looking at. Right, Carofinella is another name for this region. Right, it's the god or the goddess's land of Carofin, and so Carofin is the goddess that is Orlanth's mother. And so this region, Dragon Pass, it is a crossroad of empires. It is a crossroad of regions. It's a crossroad of ideas. And the reason it's called Dragon Pass is, well, right, in Glorantha, things aren't things just because they're things in our world. I realize it is a very weird way of putting this, right? But there are dragons asleep in Dragon Pass, and Earth has accreted on their bodies. And that's the mountain ranges that we're dealing with. So, Evan, give us a little broad view of Dragon Pass as we then zoom into Sartar.
So uh, we're looking at the northern continent of Glorantha, Genertella, and in the pretty much in the center of that continent is this crossroads, Dragon Pass. There are these enormous mountain ranges that divide the northern half and the southern half of the continent, called the Rockwoods, and there is a gap, uh, and um, and uh, that's Dragon Pass.
Mm-hmm.
It is an origin place, a mythic origin place for many powerful mythological beings, cosmic dragons, and the gods. Mount Carofin is this needle thin but kilometers high mountain that is also a goddess, the mother of mountains, who is the mother of Orlanth, and
In
it
Yinkin, correct?
and yes, they have different. They are half siblings, but
That's right.
yes, um, and so there are very distinct cultures, sort of north and south of the Rockwoods, broadly speaking. and so the movement, you know, into the north or into the south, particularly of armies,
Mm-hmm.
requires passing through Dragon Pass. It's the only place you can move a substantial army um, physically, you know, to march soldiers, and so it also then is the crossroads of trade. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's how you get to the ocean. It's the gateway to the wider world for the empires to the north, and that is part of why the Lunar Empire in the Third Age is so interested. That, of course, there are many
Mm-hmm.
motivations, but one of the things is um, Sartar as a crossroads of trade is an exceptionally rich kingdom, and then also, you know, leads further down to the maritime access
Right. And
through
then
the Holy Country.
Esrolia and Holy Country,
Yeah.
it allows access to the east into Prax and Pavis. Um, and when we get into our temporal tour, we'll talk more about this. But the region of Dragon Pass was completely depopulated of humans, specifically humans, for
Yes.
a long time due to the Dragon Kill War, which is named not because humans killed dragons, but what dragons did to the Empire of Worm Friends, which was essentially turn Dragon Pass into a large cereal bowl filled with delicious, sugary humans that were then consumed. But humanity eventually came back, resettled Dragon Pass, and Sartar is named after this legendary king, Sartar, who founded the kingdom, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But there's a lot going on here for GMs and for players. We have a lot of different regions, we have a lot of different terrain types, right? You have the Quiveni Mountains, you have hills, you have everything from the upland marsh sort of through there are these great ruins of previous ages going all the way back to the Gods' War. My favorite, and probably the most traumatic for early RuneQuest players, is the place known as Snakepipe Hollow, which is this wound in the world where chaos just breeds underground. It was an ancient earth temple that collapsed and tried to contain the corruption. And I mean, there are multiple versions of Snakepipe Hollow, which was sort of the, at least in my mind, Evan can tell me if your Glorantha experience will vary. It was sort of iconic for me because it was very much familiar enough coming from Dungeons and Dragons. It's a dungeon crawl, but so uniquely Gloranthan in the layout and the monsters that you found and the reasons you would go into there. But it's a very I think many a player has lost many a character delving into the chaotic depths of Snakepipe Hollow. Evan, what are some other like high level like key points as a GM that you would want to point out to GMs to say, hey, this is a cool thing geographically that exists in Sartar. Here's why you should take your players there.
Well, so there are areas of active volcanism, but of course you know, that's not geology so much as, again, the mythology.
Yeah.
The uh, Kuran Mountains are the children of the volcano god
Mm-hmm.
Lodorel,
Low.
and there are various areas that where you would encounter things like you would find in, you know, Yellowstone,
Mm-hmm.
not the current flooding, but the but you know, geysers and mud pots and hot springs, and so um, and this is, you know, the melding of different important elements: earth, water, fire. There are spirits and powers there, and you know, particularly in the Starfire ridges, which uh, are within and adjacent to the Colomar lands,
Mm-hmm.
which is sort of the clan that is offered as sort of the starter model in many of the materials in the new edition. Um, and also there is are the river systems, the creek stream, which is the merging of the creek and the stream, that run through um, that go all the way from a place called Skyfall Lake, where water is literally, falling from the sky, not just as rain, but that there is actually like a waterfall from
Mm-hmm.
the sky into the lake, and different things fall down out of the sky dome into the lake. That is technically outside of Sartar, but it's adjacent, and then water streams down and runs all the way through, and uh, that river is another sort of transportation and economic engine. Of course, the ducks are the great boatmen of on the water, and so there's a lot of adventure possibilities
Yes.
from that landscape.
Well, and so the reason we're starting with Sartar is in a lot of ways, Sartar is our central point. It is the least weird and the least chaotic in a disorderly sort of way, not in a Gloranthan sort of use of chaos. It's the place of stability that we can start from, and we can say, here is baseline Glorantha, and then we start to spread north into Tarsh, east into the weirdness that is Prax, west into the Grayslands, south into the land of 1,000 goddesses. This is our starting point, but that doesn't mean aren't weird things going on in Sartar. You can find sleeping giants that are slowly turning into parts of the mountain ranges. You can find ruins that are actually places where the true dragons have left bones beside. And then if you're playing in current timeline, which is weird to say, but for the longest time, all Gloranthan campaigns started in 1623? Is that the number that's
Mm.
popping into my head? But they've moved the timeline ahead, kind of. We're now after Dragon Rise. So 1625, there is now this place called Dragon's Rest where the green dragon arose and swallowed a lunar temple as it was being dedicated. Like there's weirdness in Sartar, but there's also familiarity. Like you can start in Sartar, sprinkling a little bit of the Gloranthan weirdness, and still have a lot of familiar things for your players. Now, as we mentioned, Sartar was sort of founded by Sartar, the first uh, king of Sartar, king of Dragon Pass, and he established a number of cities, and these cities are very important. But before we get into that, let's talk about the peoples, because here's the thing. If you're playing in RuneQuest, I mean, if you're playing in Glorantha, basically any version of Glorantha, the people are far more important to the game and to the character. Yes, you are playing your individual character, but that character is just one member of their clan. And that clan is just one member of one of the larger tribes. So, Evan, you put a quote in here by Jeff Richards. Why don't I turn it over to you for a little bit and let
Yeah.
you expound upon that?
Yeah. As we've noted many times, Jeff puts a lot on Facebook in the RuneQuest Facebook group. Previews a lot of things and has a lot of pointers. And so, I'm going to hand it over to his words to help us uh, get our entree, an introduction to the Sartorites. So, his the first description is, they are an ancient uh, world warrior culture with feuding tribes and caravan cities. Hospitality and honor are very important to them, and they hate being ruled by outsiders. Although they are very loyal to their warlord prince, who they claim is descended from their divine founder. The main gods are a storm god and an earth goddess, and they have lots of minor deities, most of which share in the myths and stories of their main two gods. He goes on to say the exotic caravan kingdom of Sartar, what a spectacle where Praxians, Pelorians, Kythelans mingle in the great bazaars and souks of Sartar's cities. Sartar is tribal and dangerous. It has a violent warrior culture that tears people apart in feuds and wars. But don't think Vikings and Scotsmen. Think Bactria or the other Silk Road caravan kingdoms. So Bactria is an ancient kingdom that was invaded by Alexander the Great, and then had a lot of independent um, uh, existence in the successor kingdoms, and it was basically Afghanistan.
Hmm.
But an Afghanistan that was a jewel of again this crossroads, mountainous and with fiercely independent people who saw trade come through from India, from China, and then back from Syria, from Persia, from Rome. And so this is the kind of place that Sartar is, and the kind of people that live in this landscape.
Now, again, if you're a member of the Iconic Patronage, which again you can find at patreon.com/iconicproduction, we give you access to our show's outlines. And our show's outlines are, again, there's a reason why I refer to Evan as the scribe of Lancor Mine. They are intensely detailed. And we can't, if we covered everything, Evan and I would be here for, this would not be exploring Glorantha. This would be uh, Glorantha 401. But um, we'll cover it just a little bit. Like if you want the more detailed, it goes out to our patrons. So there are 24 main Orlanthi tribes, and two of them have been very well documented. As Evan said, the Colomar tribe, also known as the Proud, they're sort of our baseline um, tribal structure. We get to see a lot of how they are organized, why they are important, what do they do. If you get Sartar Kingdom of Heroes, it really is sort of the Colomar campaign. On the flip side, if you have access to, if you can find them, whether at like Noble Knight Games or on Amazon, if you can find the wonderful Red Cow campaign, which is 2 books. It's the Coming Storm, which has all of the tribal information about the Red Cow clan, and then 11 Lights, which is the campaign. That focuses on the Kulbria tribe. And actually, for me, it was very fascinating because one of the things they are trying to do is essentially bring these red cows back that they were once known for, and that are used in various religious ceremonies that cannot be done without, like, cannot be done correctly without these Kulbrian red cow clan cows. I think that sentence made sense. You may have to pause it and rewind it a couple of times. But there's a link to that, actually, to sort of this idea of the red heifer that is kind of associated with Judaism and some eschatological views of Christianity. But again, this idea of this sacred cow, literally, needing to come back into the world, and that helps set up the return of Argrath. Whew, that was a lot. Okay, so those are the two ones that are our main, the main focus. We have the most detail of them, and you can extrapolate from them all of these other little things. Hey, maybe this works this way for the Dinacola clan, or who are the ones that fight the Talmori? That would be the
Um,
Cincina.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
Wolf Slayers.
right. And it would have also been the Maboter, but the Maboter were destroyed by the Telmori during the lunar occupation.
Right. There were originally 26, and 2 have been wiped out recently, correct?
Well, tribes are are forming. Uh, yeah, there you could count to 26 certainly, but some have passed from existence and been replaced by others, but that don't have trace origin back to the founding of the kingdom.
Of the kingdom. So, as Evan said, they are primarily a storm and earth led people. Sartar is. So, your main gods are going to be the storm pantheon, with some elevated importance of Ernalda and some additional kind of feel like I'm a weatherman. And then there's some earth goddesses that will, push up from the southwest, creating sort of this pressure storm of the storm gods and the Ernaldan cults. But a key figure, and I'm gonna let Evan talk. I'm gonna let him wax eloquently about this. But a key figure to the Sartarite people. So you have your characters, you have their clan chieftain, the head of their Tula or their chieftainess. That's the most locally important person with the ring that goes around there. The ring of advisors, the clan ring. But then you go up and you have the same structure replicated at the tribal level. Multiple tribes, or sorry, multiple clans to a tribe. And what's interesting is they thought there was a lot of effort put into this, right? There are clans that you are forbidden to intermarry with because the tribe makes sure that you don't just get a bunch of inbred clans. So you have clans that you're not allowed to marry into, you have clans that you're supposed to marry into, but they can't marry into yours. Like there's this interconnected web of allegiances, marriage alliances, rivalries, just in the tribal structure for your clans. You could never go above the tribal structure and still have a deeply intriguing and political game in Sartar. But then, and this is sort of one of the key positions and struggles of Sartar, is this idea of the Prince of Sartar. Now, the Prince of Sartar nominally is the ruler of Sartar and is the priest. It's sort of a high priest slash kingly role, like very much Semitic, where the king was also the head of the religion. Like you would see in Egypt, you would see this in like Babylonian and Sumerian cultures. But there's also the Prince of Sartar is a coveted and politically and spiritually significant position. Sartar founds the kingdom. There's a long line of Sartarian princes. Kalir is currently the Prince of Sartar. But I'm setting Evan up. I'm trying to get all the dominoes in place so that he can explain this real well. But being the Prince of Sartar does not mean you're also the King of Dragon Pass. That requires an additional steps. There have been many princes of Sartar who have also been the King of Dragon Pass. And there have been some that have not. But the key thing that revolves around becoming the prince at this point in time is the lighting of the flame of Sartar. So I would like Evan, I'm going to turn this over to you. I've juggled these balls. I'm going to start throwing them at you. What is the Prince of Sartar? What is the flame of Sartar, and why is lighting it important? And then I'll pick up the King of Dragon Pass distinction if you're okay with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So the Prince of Sartar. So Sartar founds the kingdom. Again, spoilers for our history discussion. And at the end of his reign, he creates this outside his palace, in his capital city of Boldhome, high in the mountains. He creates this great brass brazier, a wondrous item, and ignites the flame in it, and he steps into the flame and is taken to the realm of the gods. He becomes divine. And
It's his
so
apotheosis.
that's right.
Yeah.
And so the flame is the connection between the kingdom, the bloodline of the sacred kings, and Sartar in the realm of the gods. So you kind of have to complete the circuit to have the flame um, ignite and burn. Um, and so one of the key things to be prince is that you must have descent from Sartar. This is, this is not a democracy. This is
That's right.
not, there are certain entry level qualifications, and you must be at least this much Sartar in order to be prince. Um, and um, so one of the, in order to um, prove your uh,
Divine
ability,
link. Yep.
your divine link, your suitability to be prince, you have to be able to make the flame of Sartar ignite. Now, some of the princes have done that, sort of only barely. Um, and in fact, there was a puppet under the Lunars. It was someone who was a descendant of Sartar, but was very weakly, barely made it flicker. Um, but one of the things that is, most important is, showing that link, and the prince has to have this um, divine connection. And really, without the prince, without the descendants of Sartar, there really is no more independent kingdom of Sartar.
Mm-hmm.
It is built by um, Sartar and his descendants, with his spirit and divine power um, uh, focused through them, that continues to expand and build and bind the kingdom together.
Now, this kind of culminates, and when we go through our temporal time, we'll end that temporal tour with the coming of White Bull and Argrath, and who is played masterfully by Evan in my RuneQuest game. But he becomes not only the Prince of Sartar, but once again becomes the King of Dragon Pass. Now you may be saying, JM, you keep referring to these as if they are somehow linked, but two different uh, titles, and I'm glad that you noticed. Because one can become the Prince of Sartar, but in order to become the King of Dragon Pass, something more has to happen. It's not a matter of conquest, it's not a matter of brute strength. It is actually a matter of deep spiritual and religious significance. In order to become the King of Sartar, the King of Dragon Pass, you must marry the Feathered Horse Queen, who is sort of the ruler, goddess, figurehead of sort of the western portions of Dragon Pass, the Grayslands. She speaks for the uh, the beast folk, right? The centaurs, the satyrs, the minotaurs. All of these people who exist in the Grayslands, and so it's really this union of the humanocentric lands of the east and the wilder beast centric and dominated lands of the West. And when those two things come together, then you have basically peace in the land between everyone, and you have this spiritual and divinely blessed union, and are able to be called the King of Dragon Pass. Anything you would want to actually or
Why?
amend?
Well, I would like to add, yes. I mean, the Feathered Horse Queen is is an avatar of Ernalda, of the
Yes.
power of the earth, and and an embodiment, really, of the sovereignty of Dragon Pass.
Mm-hmm.
There have been, the before the Feathered Horse Queens came to the Grayslanders, which is another development we'll talk about when we talk about the Grayslanders.
I'm very
Um,
excited about that one. I'm just going to sit
but
back and listen.
but um, but so that is when the Feathered Horse Queens were revealed among the Grayslanders. That's when the sovereignty of the Dragon Pass sort of became their
Mm-hmm.
treasure. Um, but it existed before, and there were kings of Dragon Pass before that. What the great centaur hero Ironhoof has
Ironhoof,
been
yes.
has been in the past. um, the King of Dragon Pass, although he is not presently the King of Dragon Pass, and others. I believe the the first King of Tarsh, Arn the
Mm-hmm.
Pauper, may have been King of Dragon Pass as well. That was before the I think the Feathered Horse Queen came into her own as a embodiment of Ernalda on Earth. Although I'll have to check my books on that. But in any case, it is something that many a hero could aspire to, but it has been particularly strong in the uniting of the Prince of Sartar with the Feathered Horse Queen when the kingdom of Dragon Pass, the sovereignty
Mm-hmm.
of of the entire pass has been embodied in that union. It has been uh, not, it's been very spiritually significant.
Yes. Well, and you have
Not
this
necessarily militarily, but
right.
yeah.
But you have with this layer of the Prince of Sartar and the Feathered Horse Queen, you have right. Mythology is fractal. What happens above is repeated below. What is repeated above, below affects what's above. And so what you have is this continual renewal of the marriage of Orlanth, represented by the Prince of Sartar, to Ernalda, represented by the Feathered Horse Queen. It is a spiritual union that replicates what happened in the God Time that sort of founded these cultures, which I love. Now, another reason why you should play in Sartar is we said, hey, it's very humanocentric. You can get behind, hey, these are different tribes and clans. You can focus on the very communal aspect of RuneQuest right off the bat. But there are non-humans in the region. You have the dwarf mines. You have several groves for the Eldrami. You have the woods. He mentioned Skyfall Lake. You have Beast Valley. There's dragon newts in this area. You have ducks near Apple Lane. You have within several days' journey of wherever you choose to set your campaign, you have weirdness, and you have high weirdness in Glorantha. It's part of the beauty. You again, kind of why we're starting with Sartar is it's our central stable point before moving out. When you pick where your clan's Tula is, where your group, whether it's a city or a small village or a region, when you pick that starting point, that's your center point for your Sartar game. And the further away you get from your center point, the weirder it gets.
Absolutely.
All right, so um, we have a lot of historical notes for Sartar. Evan,
Just
did
gonna
you
go high level.
high level? So here's the thing: we talked about the Dragon Kill War. When we get into this region, what you need to know about this, at least for our temporal issue episodes, it wouldn't be an episode of exploring Glorantha if we didn't tease like 8 or 9 months in advance. Dragon Pass has been the center of a lot of the big events. Um, the First Council creates nice lore in this region, kicking off the end of the First Age. Empire of Worm Friends and the God Learners are both very active in this region during the Second Age, leading to the events of the Dragon Kill War, wiping out humanity. And what you have is, again, Evan, tell me if I'm correct. It's the Hjortlings who kind of migrate back into this region during
Yes,
the
from
Third
the south.
Age.
Yes,
And
they begin the repopulation.
yes,
Um, after centuries of it being a taboo area, you just figured if you walked past a certain point, a dragon was just going to pop out and eat you. Um,
yeah, is good times.
yeah,
Uh, so the Hjortlings settle in this area, and the tribes start to arise, and Sartar comes, as we said, and he sets up um to prove why he should be the ruler of these desperate tribes. He creates magically his cities. Some he raises in a single night, if I'm remembering correctly.
right. The city walls
Yeah,
arise at his command
and
overnight.
Why, in your opinion and your research, why does Sartar set out on this quest to unify this region as a kingdom?
Well, Sartar clearly is a visionary. He is a builder. He's not a conqueror. He never personally uses violence, even though, you know, as Orlanth teaches us, violence is always an option,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not an option that he chooses. Now that it is made clear, his followers do sometimes use violence on his behalf.
Yes. Yeah,
But
on his behalf, sometimes at his, I won't cross this line, but I'm okay if you do.
right,
Wink,
but
wink.
yeah, he knows the uh the power and potential of this. Now, uh what was his deep knowledge of the prior cultures that had been there before the Empire of Wormsfriend, uh, or even back to the First Age? What explorations did he do as a hero quester? We don't know so much. We know that he wields um, amazing and miraculous powers, and he uses them to unite people, to resolve conflicts,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to build. He builds cities, and then he builds roads, and and he sees prosperity. He sells it as
Mm-hmm.
prosperity, and he's right. He creates Sartar in a way that makes it an enormously rich kingdom. The princes of Sartar are, from the tolls, from the vast trade going back and forth, become fabulously rich.
Mm-hmm.
And from scattered tribes warring and feuding, um, you get these cities which are engines of the economy, and he spreads peace, he spreads prosperity, um, he spreads culture in a way that instead of these tribes on the frontier having
Mm-hmm.
to trade and obtain things, and not having the knowledge and technology among them, in the cities, and through the imports coming in, it becomes an engine of knowledge and production for themselves. They all of their resources then they can turn into wealth.
Yeah.
So is it less of a Bronze Age, warrior honor culture? No,
No,
there's
not at all.
still a lot of that, but you know, the way of Arnaldo, there is always another way. There is a way towards peace and prosperity. The travel communication of histories becomes much, much more appealing. It's much easier to get rich by fostering trade, and catering to it, than having to go to war.
Yeah. Now, we've got about 15 minutes left in our episode, so we're going to bring it to why should you look at setting your game in Sartar? The first answer is because that's where most of the rules are. Like, if you buy the RuneQuest Glorantha book, you can have people from a variety of different um, cultures, like Esrolian or Praxian, Tarshite, Lunar Tarshite, Sartarite. But if you look at most of the questions going through the character creation and the history stuff that you're rolling, it's all information based in what happened in Sartar. Now, you get a little bit of things that happen in the Grazelands and down in Holy Country, but the focus is Sartar. And the idea is, at least in the core book, that even if you're an Esrolian, you have married into or become part of a Sartarite tribe. Now, going back, the history of Glorantha as a game setting is based in Sartar, all the way back to, right, Red Bear, White Moon. No, White Bear, Red Moon.
Yes.
I was like, did you put that in there specific? I'm like Ron Burgundy. I will read what is on the teleprompter.
Oh
Um,
no, did I get that wrong? Yes, I did. Boy, and you fell right into
I
that
fell right
trap.
into your trap. Now
I was writing late at night.
Evan will then put this out on the internet and be like, "Look at this buffoon. He needs to explore Glorantha more as well." As soon as I said, it, I'm like, "Wait a second, no, the moon is red." And Harik is
Or is it?
or is it bum bum bum? I'm more of a blue moon,
Blue
but
moon.
yeah, she saw me standing alone
Yeah.
and made me an assassin. So we have just this incredible rich depth, and again, exploring Glorantha, which is our show, but RuneQuest Adventures in Glorantha and the QuestWorlds, what was HeroQuest, was very focused on Sartar as the kingdom of heroes. But it's also a major focus of the conflict between the Orlanthi and the Lunar Empire. So, Evan, why is Sartar kind of at, like, why is this, uh, to use another Stafford term, the cradle or the crucible of the hero wars? Why is it focused so much on Lunars and Sartarites as the main conflict of this age?
Well, so I mean, the 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 major developments in this area, which is not only a physical crossroads, but a spiritual and cosmic crossroads,
Mhm.
um, has been, the rising of the red moon from the north, in Peloria, um, and the coming of Sartar and his magics here in Dragon Pass, and the struggle over control of Dragon Pass is the flashpoint for the Hero Wars. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the only thing going on. There are many things going on throughout the entire world, but it is the major military, political, uh, mythological struggle. Again, in many ways, it is the replication, again, the fractal um, echo uh, of the struggle between Orlanth, the Storm tribe, the tribe of freedom, and then a new tyranny, as they
Mm-hmm.
see it from the sky. But instead of the Sun Emperor, who in God time, is murdered, and Orlanth has to go to hell, make amends, bring him back. But he's wounded. He's no longer the power that he was. You now have the Red Goddess,
Mm-hmm.
and the Moon struggling directly for the realm of the Storm Gods.
Yeah.
She is in the Middle Air, where the Storm Gods once claimed supremacy, and so that's reflected on the Earth in the struggle between Sartar and its leadership, which spoilers, but passes from Kalir to Argrath White Bull, um, uh, in in uh, in the course of the campaign. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be your campaign. Your Glorantha may vary, but the official campaign, which is in the production line
Yeah.
behind the Gods of Glorantha, the Sartar book, the great campaign that will be the pivot point. And why is that? Because all of the powers, the energies of the world are really focused here, and
Mm-hmm.
the great rising power has been with the Lunar Empire. It's the most cultured, the richest, the largest, the most peaceful and prosperous empire. But there are great contradictions within it. And then there's this scrappy jewel at the heart of the world that's standing in the lunar empire's way, and they thought they had it solved, and then a dragon ate half their armies,
Yeah. That
all of their officials, and they can't let it go.
they just.
They
Well, I
can't. I mean,
I was going to give you props for not showing your lunar favoritism right up until that last line. Um, Now, from a player and GM perspective, why focus on Sartar? Because that's where most of our information is in the current things. If you are making a character, I highly recommend you do not skip your your family history rolls, because
Oh yeah.
that alone, one, there's a lot of mechanical benefits, but that will explain what happened over the last 2 generations in Sartar. As a GM, you buy the GM pack, you look at most of the adventures that are being published, they're taking place in Sartar in Dragon Pass. So, resource wise, it's the easiest place to step into. Now, there's a ton of things to be adventuring and to do in Sartar. You have chaos. We've talked about this. There are brew. Depending on your point of view, I'm just going to stake my claim here. There are Telmori. I hate the Telmori, and I believe they are chaos tainted, and I know that I'm right. No
Yes, you
amount
are.
of arguing will. You have,
But
sorry, excuse me. You have chaos cults, you have ogres, you have Karish kids who are eating away at the foundations of the world. You have Snake Pipe Hollow to go into. There is a ton of great. If you want your campaign to be battling the chaos that lies beyond the Tula, great, you can do that. If you set it in Western Sartar, you could even go against Delecti the Necromancer in the Upland Marsh. There are a ton of ancient ruins, treasures, secret powers, forgotten spirits and gods, things from the god time, the Dawn Council, the Kabaji Wars, the Empire of Worm Friends. One of my, this was, like I said, I've been reading through, I finished up Histories of the Hjortling people in my campaign, and I took this out of the GM pack adventure. My players found the barrow of King Baravenenos, who is mentioned in the history of the Hjortling peoples, and the great dragon slayer, and gathered his armor, and then ended up giving it to somebody because none of them wanted to be the sucker who got in the dragon slaying armor and then actually went out to try and fight dragons. But you have the war, the conflict between the Lunar Empire and Sartar is the razor's edge conflict of this time in Dragon Pass. Also, if you don't want to do anything with the Lunars but still want to have war, there is intertribal warfare. There is interclan warfare. Clans of the same tribe will raid each other and have feuds that go back centuries. You can have this. Sartar is so well fleshed out. You can have your political game. You can have your adventurers going out to reclaim magic treasures. You can do hero questing campaigns. You could do war campaigns, and it's all set right there. Now, we talked about all of the other elder races that are kind of going on here. But, Evan, why don't you talk a little bit about the political struggles and then the social conflicts?
yeah,
And then we'll kind
sure.
of bring this to this episode exploring Sartar. Kind of, we'll do our final thoughts and wrap it up.
Yeah. So, it, uh, Kalir is this pivotal person, figure, and she's enormously ambitious, but she's alienated a lot of people along the way. She led this failed rebellion 12 years before the starting period for the new edition, and so she's made as many you know frenemies, if not outright enemies, as she has allies. And so there's this period of instability in the question of her rule, and there's a lot that could be looked at in that period of time, and whether her rule might extend beyond the official timeline or not. I've certainly heard interviews with people where they the player characters rescue her from possible death, and then she continues as a complication, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's fascinating. Then there is Argrath, this figure, and it's too big to talk about him
We're going
in
to
just
have
a couple
one
of minutes.
episode on Argrath and why you should definitely at least reference him in a campaign.
Yeah, but he's in the family background.
Mm-hmm.
He is there's a whole web comic that covers a lot about him, Prince of Sartar.
And a
you can
novel is sort of a loose
well,
term, but
right,
you can get it
yeah,
from Chaosium. I was going to say, if you want more detail on the history, the politics, and what will happen in Dragon Pass, check out King of Sartar, which is available
yeah,
from Chaosium right now.
absolutely. But so he is the man of destiny, really,
Mm-hmm.
and has been since Red Bear, White Moon. No, White Moon, Red Bear. No, I said it about wrong again. Um, White
Red
Bear, Red
Moon,
Moon.
White Bear. White Bear,
Yes,
Red Moon. There we go.
there you go. We've said it all the ways.
Yeah, we've said it all the ways. Evan just throws
All right,
caltrops in the middle of
that's right.
the
We'll
outline.
just uh, and so, he is the destined leader. He is a mystic, a hero quester, an ambitious man who is fostering other ambitious men and women of enormous magical power and reach, and is looking for some heroes to join him. Um, and but so there's a lot of you know go off and adventure, but there's a lot of political intrigue. Who is close to him? Who is on the down and outs? What does honor require before him, etc. Of course, there's the Lunars, and the Lunars. The thing. This is a Bronze Age society. There isn't a hardened border. I mean, even while the war is going, there's still trade caravans coming back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
which means and there's nothing that we would exactly imagine to be like a secret police, although there's more of that up in the Lunar Empire.
Mm-hmm.
There's not an investigative bureau, there's not an intelligence service per se. It's a lot more informal, and so there could be a lot of intrigue in is this person my friend, my enemy? Could be a relative, could be somebody who did something for us in the past during the occupation.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of rich story, and the Tarshites, the neighbors who are split between the people who have continued to resist the Lunars and those who accepted the Lunars. It's a lunarized kingdom in the main, but it has the same kind of Orlanthe roots, and with
Mm-hmm.
belief in the earth and storm, as Sartar. There's a lot of intrigue. Is Tarsh gonna stay loyal? Are the ones that are out of power gonna get back into power? Are they gonna flip and become an ally of Sartar?
Yeah.
A lot going on there, and then they're just all the other neighbors are all intriguing. They're dangerous. You could fight them, but working the politics and the diplomacy with the wolf pirates under Herrick the Berserk, the Grayslands, the Praxians, whose great culture hero Jaldan Goldentooth has returned.
Yep.
Uh, Turmoil in the Holy Country, Esrolia, and all of the other parts of that. And then the mysterious Black Horse County, ruled by the seemingly immortal hero Sir Ethelrist from the West. All of those things are out there,
Yes.
and it's the politics are fascinating. The social struggle, the key one I think that I would identify, although there are many,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in terms of competing social ideas and norms, but is the fact that during the time of the occupation, the lunar way was appealing to people who were from Sartar. Some of them did it cynically, like this is the way to get in with the conquerors, but others had sincere conversion
Mm-hmm.
moments and feelings. And now these are your cousins and your aunts and your uncles, children, could be siblings who converted to the way of following the seven mothers, which is sort of the missionary cult of the empire. But it exists. It does not have to exist only in relationship with the empire. It is a personal relationship with the moon goddess, and there is this solace and this good news that people have accepted, and um, certainly there are people in Sartar who are like, those people are all traitors.
Yeah.
We should drive them out, or we should put them to death. But there is uh, in this deeply honor-bound society, you just don't kill innocents. Humak's honor does not allow that. Orlant's honor
Right. There's the
does
reason that the
not allow
reputation
that.
and the Were Guild are part of
Right.
or of the core mechanics of the game.
Yes. And mercy and kindness embodied in Arnalda and the healing goddess Chalana Arroy, um, going to press against that. So you have to figure out, how are we going to accommodate this fact that um, something that we, the something related to something we deeply hate, the Lunar Empire, the
Mm-hmm.
political and military complex that is the enemy to the north, with the the culture and society that they have brought and left behind, that now is part of us.
Right.
And some of that is introduced in the starter box. There's some great stories told there, and I highly recommend that as an area of rich exploration, because it's one of these things where there's no easy answers.
Right.
It's tough decisions, and that makes for great, memorable games.
Well, and we've also kind of touched on the fact that Sartar raised all of these cities. So you also have the tension between, I grew up in Atula and that's what's most important to me, but look at all of the things that are going on in the city. It's another layer of conflict. That's, again, right. Most of the major temples are now in cities. Most of the major trade are now in cities. Your characters have to go to these cities, but they become lost in them, and so they want to retreat back to the village. So that brings
And your
our, oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, and your friend for understanding all of the interesting complexities there is the weapons and equipment guide that
Yes.
came out in this last year. You think weapons and equipment, it's just going to be a bunch of, how much encumbrance something is, but no, it's really an explanation of the economics and
Mm-hmm.
material culture of Dragon Pass. And it has fascinating sections on that will open your mind to how to go beyond simply, combat
Mm-hmm.
and exploration, to all these deep societal issues that deal with culture and trade and diplomacy, and I highly recommend.
I'm really looking forward to getting that in print
Oh, me too.
and holding it. Well, that brings us to the end of our tour of Sartar. Hopefully, this was helpful as we're exploring Sartar. Again, Sartar is our base point. As we move out from here, things are going. We're going to reference back to how it works with Sartar, how it doesn't work with Sartar. Ian, good to see you, buddy. If we love our children and our children's children, we will not let them ruin their souls and the way of life of their ancestors. Yes, down with the lunar way. Evan keeps trying to put in his pro-lunar propaganda, which we will announce when Evan's pro-lunar propaganda reaches Escalation Magazine. That'll be the only time I speak pleasantly. No. So what we're going to do is our next step next month is we're going to take one step away from center, and we're going to talk about lunar occupied Tarsh and why it's another great place to set a campaign. Thanks to everyone who showed up and was in the chat, who is watching this on YouTube. We've got a great week of shows starting tomorrow on Iconic Production. It is our busiest week of the month. We're going to be doing our Trail of Cthulhu actual play tomorrow night, Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central. We've got Deadlands on Monday at 7:30 Central, which has been great. We had a very Evil Dead moment with one of the characters being dragged into the cellar by something unseen. More Torg on Tuesday, 2 episodes of Behind the Screens, Tuesday and Thursday, where I'm going to be talking about heroic or epic fantasy. What were our foundational things, and we're going to start discussing what games best capture the experience of heroic fantasy. And then on Saturday, we're going to continue our the Grand Campaign. We're going to start our next episode of the Grand Campaign, where we're going to be talking more about resources that help us as GMs run Grand Campaigns. So I would like to just thank Evan as my co-host and wealth of information on Glorantha. I always appreciate all of the work that you do for the outlines. I would say if we were to split this, you are definitely more the Lankor Mai priest. I'm definitely more the Isseris priest. I like talking, but my mouth will sometimes run ahead of my knowledge, and you are there to write things in stone and in bronze, inscribe them in bronze, so that our viewership gets the best information on exploring Glorantha. So until next month, Evan, thank you. It's always a joy to just chat Glorantha with you.
I can't wait till next month.
Me neither. And to all of the fans, again, thank you. Exploring Glorantha is one of our most popular shows. I appreciate that. If you like it, consider subscribing here on Twitch. Follow us on YouTube. Press the like button. Let people know, hey, this is good content. Leave a comment. We answer them. I think we answer all of them, or at least we try to. So Evan is continuing his scribal duties on YouTube as well. So until next month, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I am JM. This is my co-host Evan, and we will be back to talk about Tarsh in a month. Have a good one.
We are all us.